Hi folks, it's Vervain, and I'm here because I thought that I could make a simple video about my current witchy favorites in 3 simple categories: cards, plant magic, and magical practices, and make it less than an hour. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. So part 1 of this is already up, and that's the one in which I talk about my favorite decks of cards lately and my favorite plant magic lately. And this is part 2, where I'm going to talk about my favorite magical practices that I've been participating in, let's say, lately. Which is kind of an unusual category for a witchy favorites video. It's not, at least it's not something I've ever seen, and maybe I don't watch enough witchy favorites videos anymore. I feel like I used to watch a lot more of those than I do. Lately I've been watching a lot of junk journaling videos and almost no witchcraft videos, so, you know, maybe I'm not the expert in this field. But anyhow, hi, I'm Vervain. I make things. Sometimes those things are magic, sometimes those things are books, sometimes those things are bread, sometimes those things are any number of other things. Water break. Water's the source of all life. Okay, so if you're curious about my favorite cards and my favorite plant magic lately, check out the link in the description for part 1 of this video. This is part 2. We're gonna talk about my favorite magical practices recently. And we're gonna start with the thing that's on the end of my list. And I'm gonna show you my outfit. So this outfit is courtesy of my basket case deck. I have been doing, which I know you're like, what is a basket case deck? Well, if you want to know what a basket case deck is, you should probably go back and watch part 1. But I've been doing this thing lately where, let me give you some context. I'll sit back down for the context. So, when I moved into Climbing Rose Cottage, which is this house that I'm living in right now, I moved from a very tiny, like 2-room house with a really big walk-in closet into a medium small-sized cottage from 1934 with 1934 sized closets, which is to say hardly any closet at all. And as Tess Whitehurst would say, I am a magical fashionista. I am somebody who loves clothes. I love wearing clothes. I love collecting clothes. I love just looking at the beautiful textiles arranged on my clothing rack in my closet. I love it. It makes me happy. It brings me joy. Marie Kondo would not encourage me to part with these beautiful clothes and textiles that bring me so much joy just to look at them, let alone to touch them and wear them. So, I had to find a storage solution for that, which I did find. But also, I figured it was high time for me to do a KonMari, a declutter, if you will, of my clothing items and accessories. And I probably still need to do the accessories part. I don't know that I've thoroughly done like the shoes and jewelry, but I went through all the cloth items, all the clothes and headscarves and shrugs and cloaks and things. Well, I cannot find my black cloak, which bothers me greatly. So if you have any intuitive downloads about where you think my black cloak might be, please drop them in the comments. I want to know. It's missing. So as I was doing this big clothing declutter, which I should say actually, like, KonMari is a great magical practice. Marie Kondo knows what's up. As I was doing this big declutter, I was breaking the KonMari rules and I was trying things on. Partially because I just had too many things in the keep pile, and I was like, okay, at least, like, I'm pregnant, so my body is probably not in the best space to tell me how things look on me and how things are gonna fit me around the waist. But at least like my upper body is pretty much the same shape and size that it's been for a while, and I have no plans to change it majorly anytime soon. So at least for like tops, I can go through the ones that I think I want to keep and try them on. And if they just straight up don't fucking fit, I'm gonna get rid of them. I'm gonna be good. So I was trying things on not as an excuse to keep them, which I think is why KonMari recommends that you don't try things on, but as a way of trying to convince myself to get rid of more things. And it did actually work. I found there were quite a few things that I was like, okay, do I just not reach for this because I just don't reach for it, or do I not reach for it because there's a part of my subconscious that knows that it doesn't fit me? And as I was doing this, I was wearing a pair of red velvet bell bottoms and just trying on all of my tops. And I tried on so many tops that looked so good with this pair of red velvet bell bottoms. And I was like, I would never have come up with these combinations on my own just because. How can I inspire myself? I promise you this is coming back to the basket case. How can I inspire myself to wear more of these clothes that I love looking at and I love touching and I actually love wearing, but I just don't reach for? And how can I inspire myself to try wearing them in new combinations that I wouldn't necessarily come up with myself? Because I had really fallen into a pattern, we'll say, not necessarily a rut, a pattern of like, I had really learned what silhouettes I liked and what really looked good on me and what I was comfortable in. But there's a lot of wiggle room in that to play with within my wardrobe. And instead of playing with it, I had kind of found like the 5 or 10 things that were like easiest and most comfortable and most tried and true within those guidelines. And I was just going for those all the time. And then 4 days a week I was working at Starbucks. And so I was just wearing my work uniform. I quit my job. Congratulations, Vervain. So I don't have to do that anymore. And so I really only had a couple days a week to wear whatever I wanted to wear. And I was just going for the same things, because how much, you're always going to have your top 3 favorites if you're doing laundry every week. So I was like, all right, how can I inspire myself to wear more of these different clothes in new and different combinations? And I thought of the basket case. And I thought, I thought this sounds like a fun idea for inspiring me to wear different outfits, but also this sounds like a really fun idea for Instagram, and this sounds like a really fun way to promote my basket case readings. So I'm gonna start doing this thing, and I have, where I make reels, and they're get ready with me reels, but they're also divination reels. So I will pull a card, and then I will use that card to inspire me in building. I'm trying to find the card that I pulled today. Here it is. To inspire me in putting together an outfit for the day. And then I'll make like the narration to the reel a combination of like, how is it inspiring the outfit and just interpreting the card. So the reel is, I pull a card, I interpret it a little bit, I use the card as inspiration to build an outfit. Some of the cards have people in outfits on them, so it's relatively easy. Some of the cards don't. So it's like, all right, let's look at the colors, let's look at the motifs, let's look at the textures, let's think about the meaning, and let's translate that into outfits. Okay, so let me tell you guys, not only has this actually been a very fun idea for Instagram, and Instagram seems to be liking it, and not only has it achieved the goal of getting me to wear more of my clothes in new and different combinations, it's also just led me to have really great days. Like, this has become my favorite divinatory practice as of late. To the point where it's like I don't do this, like the first one that I did, it was like, all right, I said I was gonna do this reel idea. I have time today. Let's film the reel. Let's do it. And since then, it's been like, all right, it's important to me that I get my energy right today. And so we're gonna do one of these basket case get ready with me reels, because it just really helps me get my energy right. I have better days when I let the basket case guide me this way. And I also started a broadcast channel today on Instagram where, because the reels often take me like a day or two to edit and post, and so you're not getting it like right when I pull it, and also it's max a minute and a half, so you get very limited narration and interpretation. So I started a broadcast channel today where I can post the cards as I pull them and share a little information about them as I pull them, and I can go a little more in depth than I can go in the reel. So if you're interested in more about that card specifically and what I interpreted and how it was super helpful to me, or in any other cards that we pull, you can go ahead and join that broadcast channel on my Instagram, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the description. Sorry if I forget. I always want to add a ton of links to the description, and it's hard to remember which ones. Water's the source of all life. Yeah, I feel like I have better days when I do this. It helps me get my energy right. I feel better when I'm dressed well, even if I'm not going anywhere, even if I'm just hanging around the house. And today, like, I'm not going anywhere. I do have like a relative coming by to drop something off, and I do have like, I'm doing some client readings today, and so I'm interacting with other people's energy. And I wanted to feel like I was really well resourced and like I was really fulfilled, and like my energy, my cup was overflowing so that I could pour and serve from the overflow, which is my word of the year. And we can talk more about that later. Actually, I would go so far as to say, we'll move on to number 2. This wasn't even on my list, but I would go so far as to say that having a word of the year is one of my favorite magical practices as of late. I have a whole vlog where I talk about how I had picked freedom for my 2022 word of the year, and how that went, and how I was choosing create for my 2023 word of the year, and why that was. And I'll try to remember to link that in the description. And then I have some junk journaling videos where I'm kind of vlogging in the background about choosing overflow as my word of the year for this year. So I'll link those down in the description below if you want to hear the specific reasoning behind those specific journeys and how that's gone for me for the last couple years. But yeah, resolutions I've never been very good at sticking with. And I think that has to do with a lot of things, but I think about like, there's the piece of manifesting advice that comes up a lot, that I think is really good manifesting advice, which is like, don't get attached to specifics. Don't get attached to the hows, the details, the who's, the where's, whatever. But do get attached to the energy. Do get attached to the energy that you want, the energy that you want to manifest, the feeling that you desire to manifest. And so like, you know, I can change my mind a million times in 1 year about like, what specific creative project do I want to focus on? What specific business project do I want to focus on? What specific direction do I want to take my life in? But I know in the bottom of my heart and soul what energy I'm trying to create. I know what my big goals are, and I know what those big goals feel like, even if I don't know what they specifically look like or specifically what the steps are to get there. And this year I'm becoming a mother, and I've just been realizing more and more that like, not only to be a good mother, but also to be a good business builder and creative businesswoman and entrepreneur and homemaker and tarot reader and all these things, an artist. If I want to be good at those things, not just at doing them, but at doing them in service to other people, my cup has to be full. And it took me some tarot readings and some introspection and some conversations with myself to arrive at the word overflow, and that's all in the vlogs that I'll link down below. But having a word of the year really helps me focus on what's important. And that was it. My word of the year overflow has been guiding me every day in a way that resolutions can't. Resolutions, I whiffle waffle, I go back and forth on like, is that even right for me? But there's no question for me, overflow makes sense for me this year. So if you've never done a word of the year before, I highly recommend looking into the practice and picking one for yourself. It's never too late. It doesn't have to be January to pick one. You can pick one at any time. And you can say, okay, this is good until the end of December, or you can say this is good until this time next year, or you can pick any milestone. I do a lot of different like New Year's things around Samhain and solstice, but I do tend to pick my word of the year between solstice and early January. That's all I'll say about that, because I have other videos about that. So, other magical practices. Let's talk about magic of eye. Planning with magic of eye. Man, my 2021 word of the year was plan. I think. Yeah. And I had mixed results with that because it wasn't a very evocative word, but I was pretty good at it during the year. I don't know that it really stuck with me afterwards, but I've been getting better over the next couple years. I think I'll talk more about this in those other word of the year vlogs as well. But even if I have a couple days like last week where I don't necessarily use it every day, it really does help me to plan out my days ahead of time, and having a really beautiful book to do it in helps me want to do that. So like we could talk forever about the merits of planning and about like how it's hard to make yourself do it sometimes. But it's so much easier for me to make myself do it. It doesn't even feel like making myself doing it. It's so much more pleasant to invite myself to plan my next day, or to plan my week or my month or my year or whatever, when I get to do it in a really beautiful book. And this has the added benefit. This is called Magic of Eye. Like the letter I, which I think stands for incarnation. And it's like very astrologically designed. So there's like a place, I haven't done it, but there's a place for you to put in your birth chart. And then there's like all this information about the moon signs and like the daily energy as the moon moves through different signs. And then like every day, I'll show you a future day that doesn't have writing on it yet. Every day has all the information about like transits and aspects about where the planets are. Like this is showing you it's a half moon in Pisces. And it shows you, that we're having the third quarter at 10:12 a.m. and I think this is Pacific time. And then if you're like me and you're not astrologically fluent and you don't bother reading all those transits and aspects, because what does that even mean? Every day has these little keywords. So I don't know if that was blurry. I think it probably was. But so like that day, Thursday, May 30th, says psychic genius. Is psychic genius even one of the days? Is that an anomaly of a day? Because the next one says psychic days. Oh, is psychic and genius different ones? I don't know. Let's go back here. It's going to tell us. So it's called the Optimum Times Life Guide. And this is page 9 of the Magic of Eye. It breaks it down. Okay, yeah, we've got psychic days and stroke of genius. So that's very, I don't know. I'm a little confused about what was happening on that particular day. I've never seen that before. But there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 different vibes. So they have done the work of like looking at all of those astrological transits and aspects and things and translating that into, okay, if you don't want to know about all the planets and where they are and what they're doing, here's the vibe for the day. And so like, let's see, today is January 31st and the moon is in Libra. And today is listed as a love it up day. And so love it up is described as, and then it has like positives and negatives. So it says positives: connection elixir, sexy lover times, delicious indulging, union buzz, relational healing and rapport building, pleasure, self-love and nourishment, creativity, beauty, sensual flowing materials, and new outfits. Eat that chocolate and enjoy it. And then for negatives, it says can be challenging for closed hearts and harsh conditions. So today's a love it up day. Today's a Libra moon day, which incidentally, when I say that the basket case always knows what's up, I realized that it was a Libra moon day because this card made me wonder if it had anything to do with today possibly being a Libra moon day. I was like, all right, I can interpret all the things about this card, like the white for energetic protection and shining your light, and the contract for like not feeling like I have to go above and beyond, and just, you know, keeping to what I've promised and knowing that my contracts are boundaries that protect my energy, all those sorts of things. But like, I wonder if the scales and the justice bit, like I wonder if maybe the moon's in Libra. And I went and looked it up, and sure enough, the moon is 15 degrees right smack in the middle of Libra today. And I was like, basket case, you really do always know what's up. So there's that. And I find that like, especially as I'm planning like when I'm gonna host Zoom classes and stuff, being able to look at, so like the daily spread will have that, but then the monthly spread will too. So the monthly spread will show, again, like all the transits and stuff, and it shows the moon sign at the top. Or not, no, it doesn't show all the transits. It shows all the aspects, which I don't know much, if anything, about that. I'm not Madam Astrologer. But like you can see here, like full moon in Leo, and it's full at 9:54 a.m. Pacific time, and it's in Leo. And then it says at the bottom here, heart explosion. So that's a different kind of energy day. And I could read to you about that, but I'm not going to. But like, I'll look, so like the one where I scheduled my Oil Magic 101, that's a day that's goals and diamond mind. And I was like, great, that's awesome, because I need to have a diamond mind that day. Like, I need to be on my clarity. I need to be knowing what's up mentally. I need to be clear and ready to like teach and present. And I was actually. So I'm just trusting Magic of Eye to tell me when are going to be good days for these things. And then like we did an Oil Coven Sacred Sharon spell, which was like everyone get together in the morning and we have a chat about angel numbers, and then we did a little key spell together. And that was really fun. And that's on a day that's Diamond Mind, Shadowy Deep, Stroke of Genius. So the Shadowy Deep was really good for some of that like magic talk, but then the Diamond Mind was also really good for like, especially the person hosting it, to be like, okay, I know that I'm going to be in a place where I can lead clearly and host well. Yeah, so I don't know. So that sort of thing. And then again, it's just really beautiful. And having it be really beautiful makes it doesn't feel like a chore when I go at night to like check on, okay, what's my to-do list for the next day? What do I need to add to my to-do list for the next day? What do I need to be looking ahead at the rest of the week for and thinking about? It doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like a gift. It feels like a beautiful thing that I get to do. And then getting to start my day by looking at it and pulling out my list. Again, it doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like a beautiful gift. So planning with Magic of Eye, that is a favorite practice. Let's check these off as I talk about them. Okay, so speaking of beautiful books, I have to share with you about junk journaling. And I think that more witches should junk journal. Because I think that witches tend to be people who like beautiful things. I think that witches tend to be people who collect little things that are special to us. And I think that witches would be happier, more witches would be happier if they had beautiful places to put those special little flatter, smaller things that are special to us and important to us. And I have certainly found that having a junk journal has actually helped me declutter my home, because there's all these things that I would hold on to and just like keep in my purse or in my nightstand drawer or in my whatever. Because it's like, well, it's special. I don't want to get rid of it, but also like it doesn't go anywhere. And so the junk journal is a place for all of those memories and treasures to go. And it's also a place to, you know, process things and to write about what I'm going through and to document my tarot readings and my magic and to save plants from my mother's garden and to, you know, here's a documentation of a reading I did, and to do little art magic spells. Here's a little art magic spell that I did for joy and heart healing. And I think that a lot of witches, I know I was one of these for a really long time, we love the idea of having this like beautiful grimoire, Book of Shadows, spell book type thing. And we hate the pressure of having a pristine, clean, perfect, beautiful journal that anything we do to it, we risk messing it up. And the thing about a junk journal, so that was my last year one. This is the one that I'm working in right now. The thing about a junk journal is that if your blank page is like this, one, there's very little that you could do to mess it up. Like you can just glue things down. You can type things out and glue things down. If gluing things down is too much of a commitment, you can glue down a pocket like this. I made a pocket out of junk mail, and then, you know, put your thing that you're not committed to gluing down into the pocket. And then later, if it pisses you off, or you decide you hate your handwriting or whatever, you can take it out of the pocket and then it's not there anymore. And you can move things around. And, you know, if you decide that you don't want this page here, you can tear it out later. Or if you decide that you don't like what you wrote here, you know, you can glue something over it, and that's okay. And you can just glue down beautiful things and add to it whenever you want until it's super, super full. And it's just, you can't mess it up. Because I feel like when you have a pristine journal and you have this idea that like, okay, if I want my Book of Shadows or my grimoire or whatever to be this beautiful pristine journal with this beautiful high quality paper, and I'm gonna do beautiful calligraphy on every page. It's like, okay, you can do that. How long can you keep that up? For 10 minutes? A week? Maybe a little longer. But I bet that you're gonna use it less because of the pressure that you associate with like doing it perfectly and wanting to have it come out right. And I feel like so you can make so much more magic when you're just allowed to make magic regardless of whether it comes out right or not. And like this came out all wonky, you know? The way that I pinned it down, it was level on the bottom. And the way that I sewed it down, it came out all wonky. And I feel like that's just part of the beauty of it now. And it's just like, I don't know, like I've documented, I documented my first reading with my Aphrodite tarot in here. And I made a little journal card with the title card from my Aphrodite tarot. And if I want to write like a quote on the back later, I can do that. And then if I decide after that that I don't like what I wrote on the back of it, I can glue something over it. And because it's already so, like, even just the pages as blank pages are already kind of like a collage and a mishmash of things, it's not going to look weird when you glue something in or tear something out or scribble something out or whatever. Whereas like when you start with perfectly bound, beautiful, creamy white pages, and then you like mess up your calligraphy a little bit, if you glue something over it, like you can tell you fucked up, you know? And and not only that, but then like if you decide that you want to start like gluing things in it or whatever, those books aren't made to have that done to them. Like their spines are such that they can fit a certain amount of paper, and the more stuff that you glue in and add in, the unhappier that spine is going to be. When I bind a junk journal, so here's a blank one that I made for myself that I haven't worked in at all yet. It's just the pages. When I bind a blank one, I make sure that the spine has lots of room and that it can close all the way, so that as I start to work in it and it gets chunkier and it grows, the spine can still be happy. And here, I'll show you like what this one looks like with nothing in it yet. It's just blank pages. And I'll have a flip through of this up on my channel if I don't already soon. If it's already up, I'll link it below. Or you know what I'll do? I'll just link my playlist of junk journal flip throughs in the description, because then you'll have the ones that are up, regardless of whether this one's up or not. So, and I feel like these pages, like just the pages, the way that they are at the beginning, like you can just leave that if you want, or you can add a quote over it or whatever, or that like now, or yeah, you can just leave it and let it be beautiful and then put some information about garden magic behind it. Like the pages inspire the content. And like I said, you can always move things around. And you can, you know, you can make your own journals out of whatever, or I've been really enjoying making these journals. So if you'd like to have one for yourself, for your own magical practice or just your own creative practice, I do sell these, and I will also link my shop down below with the section where I sell journals so that you can look at that. But like you can totally make your own very cheaply. I also have a video about how you can make this one in 30 minutes. This is a junk mail cover that can be, again, like it's ugly now, but it doesn't have to be ugly. You find pretty things, you glue them on top of it. And then the inside, you know, it is like greeting cards and coloring pages and things, but it can be printer paper, it can be old journal and book pages, it can be whatever you want. You make it what you want it to be. And so yeah, you can make them very easily yourself, or you can buy them ready-made and work in them from there. But the point is, I love junk journaling. I do consider it to be a magical practice, and I think more witches should junk journal. And I will now get off my junk journaling soapbox. Also, if you want to know more about like how to work in an existing junk journal, so I said I would link my flip throughs down below, but I will also link, I also have a playlist for junk journal with me, which is where I turn to a page and I work on it. So you can kind of see how I use those pages. So I will link both of those playlists down below so that you can enjoy them and gather inspiration, or just play them in the background while you work in your own journal. Do whatever you want. Okay, junk journaling. Dun, da, da, da. So I think that ties in nicely with gallery walls, because I think that junk journaling and gallery walls are both a type of collage. And gallery walls, I think people don't realize how much home decorating is a magical practice. And I think that people, even people who don't like practice magic and think of it that way, it still has an energetic, like still the way that you decorate your home has an energetic effect on you and everyone who enters your space. And I think that that's important to acknowledge. And I think that as witches, or even if you're not a witch, but if you're just somebody who cares about the energy of your sacred space and the beauty of your sacred space, I think we have a unique opportunity when decorating our home to be very conscious of what is the energy that we want to create in that space, in the home as a whole, but also like in each particular space within the home. And I think that gallery walls are a really cool way to do that, to curate and display items and artworks that reflect and inspire a particular energy. And so, for example, like we've just put together our living room gallery wall, and our living room is our primary music making space. It's also like, it's very much a space for hanging out. It's a space that I want to feel warm and cozy and welcoming. It's a space that I want to feel inspiring, and it's a space that I want to inspire specifically like music and socialization. And I want it to feel warm. And so, excuse me. And so in that room, in all of the decorating, I've gone for a lot of warm tones. I've got my rug that has reds in it. I'm not big on red, but pretty much all of the reds that I have are either going to the living room for that warmth or to the bedroom for sensuality. And warmth, why not? But you don't want too much red in the bedroom because it's very, what's the word? Stimulating. And you want the bedroom to be very like peaceful and calming. I'm also not big on blue. All of my blues are going either to the master bedroom, because I want it to be peaceful and calming, or to the guest bathroom, because I want that also to be a space that feels peaceful and calming and clean and clear. And it's more light blues in the guest bathroom and then dark blues in the bedroom. And then like our dining room, again, like I want that to be a space of socialization and nourishment. And I just want it to feel like a fairyland. Like I want it to feel like you have stumbled upon an elven feast in the forest, and there's just magic in every aspect of what you're being presented with, from the food to the people to every element of the experience. So in the living room, you know, I put my reds for the coziness and the warmth and because if we're gonna have that energetic stimulation, I think the living room is a good place to have it. That fire element, as the feng shui folks would put it. We've also hung, as the first element of our gallery wall was 6 guitars. So 5 of my husband's guitars and my 1 guitar are all hung at an accessible level as a anchor in that gallery wall. And both because they look really good on the wall, but also because we want to make music there. We want them to be accessible. And actually, hanging guitars on the wall is a really great way to store guitars when you have more wall space than floor space. And we do have more wall space than floor space. We have some high-ass ceilings in this house. Can you get much higher? So high. Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. Do, do. Anyhow, 11-foot 4-inch ceilings. Lots of room for gallery walling. So we started with the 6 guitars, 3 on either side of the side window. And then like all of my art that has depictions of music in it. Like I have this beautiful Emily Balavé piece called The Muse of Music. And then we've got like just other like musical inspired stuff. Those are all in that gallery wall for the most part. There might be a couple music things elsewhere. And then like my Night of Torches album art, or single art, I guess you call it, which is both a musical thing because it's the art for my song, but it's also red. So that's definitely in the living room. Whereas the Wildflowers album art is in the dining room because just the colors are less, it's more like pinks and purples, and it felt better in the dining room than in the living room. And also it's kind of a transitional space between those two rooms. But yeah, so I don't want to go like too much into the details, and I guess I'll talk about my guest bathroom one. We've been decorating the guest bathroom, and my friend got me this beautiful Everly hardware from Anthropologie with these birds on it, and like I just want it to feel like peaceful and like nature and magic, and like I want you to feel, when you go into and come out of the bathroom, I want you to feel like you've come out refreshed. I want you to feel like that moment of solitude in there has left you at greater peace and with greater clarity and just feeling more refreshed than when you went in. And so that's the vibe that I'm trying to create, both with the diffuser blend that I talked about in part 1 of this video, this citronella lime sage energy cleansing blend that I've been having going in that room. And then like the robin's egg blue walls, that's just how it came, but I like it. And then we've got this big mirror that looks like a window. And then all of the art that I've put up in there is like, well, it's a lot of flowers because I feel like plants and flowers, real plants especially, which I'm hoping to get a real plant in there. This is like a bird cage here that's got some fake flowers in it. There's a hook in the bathroom, and I really want to get like a real trailing plant that would be happy in a bathroom, and put it in this bird cage and move this bird cage to the guest bathroom. So that's something that I want to do that I haven't done yet. It's on my to-do list. So I want to get a real plant in there, but until then, I've got art of plants and flowers that I feel like kind of brings some of that same cleansing and clearing and brightening and loving and beautifying energy. And I've got a big print that I did of Venus, a big Birth of Venus print that's in there, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't have to go too much into detail about like specifically what we're doing in each room with each gallery wall, but I think it is absolutely fair to say that one of my favorite magical practices lately is building gallery walls and decorating my home. I think that there's so much opportunity in the act of decorating your home for curating the energy of the space. And I want to be very mindful about the energy that I'm creating and curating in my home, especially since that's pretty much my full-time job now. So that leaves us with just one more thing. My last favorite magical practice that I want to share with you guys. Oh man, I didn't talk about kitchen witchery. Well, I do want to talk about kitchen witchery. I didn't put it on my list. Okay, I'll just tease you a little bit right now with the idea of a sourdough starter as a familiar. And we can talk about that in another video some other time. So if you're curious about that, drop your curiosity in the comments below and remind me to talk about that later. Because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot this past year. And I feel like I was kind of joking when I first started talking about it, but the more that I work with my sourdough, and also sometimes don't, the more I feel like it is true. So we'll come back to that some other time, and I just want to touch real quickly on singing and songwriting as a favorite magical practice. I don't think, I do that. I am a singer-songwriter in a professional context, which is to say that I made about $50 last year doing it. So, nothing to call a business or anything, but I write songs, I sing them, I get paid for it, technically. I have released an album. It's called Wildflowers by Vervain and the Roses, and every song on that album was born of me processing emotional experiences, emotional and spiritual experiences, into art so that I could, I mean, that's how I process. Like junk journaling is one way that I'm able to process emotional experiences, but sometimes even after I journal something, it still sits with me, and I have to, as an art witch, as a maker, as whoever the fuck I am, I have to process my emotional and spiritual experiences one way or another, but the best way for me to process it invariably is through some kind of making, through some kind of art. And sometimes that's visual art, but more often than not, it's words, and usually it's poetic, so usually either poetry or more often songs. And I find that the challenge of, so it's one thing to just like express how you're feeling in music. And I think anyone can do that. And it's another thing to actually turn it into a good song. And something that I've realized over the past, I think I realized it a couple years ago, but I only just articulated it a couple months ago in a conversation with my husband. So at this point in the original video, I go off into an explanation of an example without actually articulating what I was trying to articulate, which is that I think to turn an emotional experience into a good song, not just a song, requires a level of self-awareness that can only come from having really processed several layers of perspective on the emotional experience. So you've got to be able to like zoom in on the intensity of what you're experiencing personally, and also zoom out to like, what does that mean on a bigger scale? How much does it really matter? Which means that sometimes you need to be able to make fun of yourself. Sometimes you need to be able to say that, hey, you know, like this thing that really matters to me in this moment isn't really that big of a deal, even though it feels like a really big deal right now. Or like, you know, man, like I know that it's not good to have this feeling or whatever, but I have it anyway. And that additional self-awareness that can turn a bad or mediocre song into a much better song, also can turn a mediocre person into a much better person. And it's often easier for me to tell that a song is not yet a good song than it is to tell that I'm not yet right in my head about a certain emotional experience. And so knowing that I'm not happy with a song can be a clue that I haven't really processed that emotional experience to the extent that I need to. And that's what I'm about to illustrate in this example here with this song. So I wrote recently a song called Apologize. And it's not out yet as of the making of this video, but it is on my Patreon. So I'll link my Patreon down below as well. And my Patreon, for as little as $1 a month, you can have access to all of my unreleased, partially released, I guess, because they're released to Patreon, but they're not released anywhere else. Just like demos and voice recordings of new songs. It's usually pretty close to like as I write, like I write a song, I record it on my phone, I upload it to Patreon. Sometimes there's a couple weeks or months in between. And then sometimes, of course, I'm adding, you know, songs that I wrote years ago before I had a Patreon, and I'll get a wild hair and put one of those up. But yeah, so if you want to hear all these semi-unreleased songs, all you have to do is give $1 a month to my Patreon, and you can hear them. So I recently wrote this song called Apologize, and the opening lines are, I keep thinking I should apologize, but I can't see how what I'd done was wrong. 'Cause all I did was look into your eyes and fall for you and write a couple songs. And if I was the type to tell you lies, well then I'd apologize. And I do think that this is actually a good song. And I think that this is a good song because in order to get to that song, I had to go through the whole process of first, actually, I wrote a whole other song first called Forgive Me that's a shitty song, and I'm not going to sing you any of it. And I had to write it first because I had to get that, like, I'm so sorry, I fucked up, please forgive me, out of my system. But even as I was writing it, and especially after I finished writing it, I didn't feel good about it. Because somewhere in my subconscious, and I eventually realized this, I knew that I didn't have anything to apologize for, that I hadn't done anything wrong. All I had done was be a woman in the world, be an artist in the world, be somebody and experience feelings and emotions and alchemize those feelings and emotions into art. I hadn't put any expectations on anyone. I hadn't made anything awkward for anyone. I hadn't demanded anything of anyone. I hadn't put anything on anyone. I had just had feelings and alchemized them into art, which at first I had some hesitations about the morality and the ethics of turning feelings I wasn't 100% on board with into art, because I felt like, okay, if I'm gonna really turn this feeling into a song, Night of Torches, for example, I have to go deeper into that feeling to extract the essence. It's almost like shamanic work. I have to go deeper into that, the spirit of that feeling, and extract the essence of that feeling out of the experience of the emotion so that I can distill that essence and turn it into the art or the song. And if you're just like shutting feelings away, which sometimes feels like the responsible thing to do, although I'm not convinced that it is. I think that the responsible thing to do is to process the feelings, and I came to that conclusion by doing it. But you know, when you have a feeling that you're not sure how you feel about, you're like, this is questionable. I don't know if I agree with this. I don't know if I should have this feeling. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to write songs about those feelings. And I was talking to my friend about this, and she very aptly put the question to me of like, well, whether or not you think you should, do you think that you as an artist can avoid having or writing about or processing or making art about these feelings? And I was like, no, I don't. So I guess I should do it. And having done it and come out the other side and processed all those feelings through art and made a whole album about it, I can say that I've pretty much got it out of my system, and that I feel like actually turning those feelings, alchemizing those feelings into art was maybe the only responsible response to having those feelings. And coming back to apologize, so I had this whole, again, like I wrote this whole Forgive Me song, and I was just like, I don't feel good about this song because this song is me apologizing for things that I don't feel like I should have to apologize for. I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. I don't feel like I need anyone's forgiveness. And I went out under the moon and I was kind of talking to the moon about all this and about like, what's the essence of what I'm trying to get at here? Because I'm really having this urge to apologize, to like try and find the balance and make things right. Like, something needs to be said here. But also, I know damn well I ain't done shit wrong. I ain't got nothing to apologize for. And at that moment, I realized that I think I originally had the line in my head, like, that, or the idea that I was feeling like I should apologize. And I realized that wasn't true. I didn't feel like I should apologize. I had the thought that I should apologize. And it was kind of an intrusive thought, or an anxious thought, or a trauma response informed thought, right? Based on patterns from my past. And I was like, I don't actually feel like I should apologize, but I keep having this recurring thought that I should apologize, but I can't see how what I done was wrong. And so I was able to arrive at this new, different, and I believe better song, where it's like, well, you know, if I was the type of person to lie to you, then I'd apologize. But I just fucking can't, bro. Yeah, so I would say that singing and songwriting is one of my favorite magical practices for alchemizing my own emotions. But then also that singing the songs that I've written, performing music, is one of my favorite magical practices for essentially like casting a spell on the audience. I've started to think of, and I'll wrap this up quick because we're coming up on an hour, but I've started to think of performing songs as casting spells. And I think that when I am in my best performer energy, that is what I'm doing, basically. I am enchanting, which is where that word comes from, the audience. And it helps me also to be a better performer when I think about it with that intention. When I think, okay, I am attempting here to cast a spell over the audience, to create a certain energy in this room, in this space, in the people who are listening. And if I can really get into that and I can communicate that properly, the people listening will walk away in a different energetic and emotional space than they came with. And if I'm doing my job as an artist, as a singer-songwriter, then I have some level of control over what that is. And that's not something I would say that I use so much to like manipulate people to like behave or do certain things, but I think I can use it to get people to think about certain things, and to influence people to be pensive about certain things, and to influence people to feel when they might not always be willing to experience their feelings. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to get to do. So those are my maybe slightly unconventional favorite magical practices as of late. Thank you for listening to all of that. I hope that you benefited from that in some way, whether it was learning something or being inspired to try something new, or whatever. Anyhow, I'm going to call that the end of this video. So I love you all. Thank you so much for being here with me today and for hanging out together. And I hope you have a wonderful, magical day, and I'll see you again soon in my next video. Bye.